All right, it looks like we're live. Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going over a bit of an in-depth review about our awesome new Stormcast models from the Soul Wars box set. And I'm actually really looking forward to kind of seeing these guys painted up and on the field, because they seem to be a little bit more of a unique take than the other Stormcast. As a painter and as kind of a fluffy guy, I really like looking at the different styles that we've seen in these guys. They look more like the religious monks that they're supposed to be. A little bit of Space Marine fluff in there, but there it is. And so we're going to take a peek, and we're just going to kind of work our way through the Stormcast Eternals box. The Stormcast Eternals side of the box set. So we're going to start off with Sequitors here. Those of you that are jumping in, let me know if there's any problems with the volume or anything like that. That'd be great. Also say hi if you can, for sure. Okay, so we've got, we're going to take a look at basically the troops and then work our way up, which makes kind of the most sense to me. So we're going to take a look at our Sequitors first, and trying to figure out which how to match these guys up was a little tricky, but not too bad. So hopefully we can see this in here. Now, I haven't really taken an in-depth look at the cards. I've taken a bit of time and kind of looked at the kind of the fluff in the background of each. But I just wanted to go over basically what's going on with the box here. So we got a couple things as I grab my handy-dandy paintbrush of pointingness. You can see that these guys are the stern guys. These are, of course, taking over the role of the liberators that we've seen in the other box set, and just they'll perform kind of the bulk of the troops there. The stern warriors who challenge the Tempest through the magical weaponry bequeathed to them by Sigmar himself. To be struck by such a warrior is to feel the energy of the storm discharging with a thunderclap force. So basically, we're talking about thunder hammers, for literally thunder hammers here for sure. They come with two different types of weapons. They got the Stormsmite Maul. It's got 2 attacks plus 3s and 3s, damage of 1. So pretty straight up. These guys will be the ones that come with the shield, and then they got the Great Mace, which of course you mix in there, and that's your Ren that's mixed in there as well. What's nice about this is you get your nice kind of cheap bulk of attacks with shielded guys to take the brunt, and you get these extra hammers with the rend and the 2 damage in there, just kind of dogpiling on top of it. So it's a bit like burying in, like a power fist in the middle of a group of guys. So it's pretty cool. They can have any number of models, which is also kind of cool. And then they've got their great mace is limited 1 to every 3 models. The Sequitor Prime, he can either be armed with one of the 2 variants, and we get those models in there as well. He's got the soul shields. Reroll save rolls of 1 for this unit, so that's not too bad. And I like the fact that you can reroll save rolls of 1 if any models in the unit are carrying soul shields. So if you have 1, that dude can totally tank the whole show, so it's pretty cool. At the start of the combat phase, you must say that if this unit will channel the etheric power into its weapons or shields. If you choose its weapons, you can reroll failed hit rolls for the units in the combat phase. If you choose its shields, you can reroll failed save rolls. Well, that's actually pretty cool. So it actually gives us the opportunity to kind of knock them up or down. And, we don't have to worry about casting magic spells or anything like that. You don't have to have guys buffing around. So they'll actually do pretty well on their own. The Great Mace Blast. In the combat phase, each time you make a hit roll of 6+ for an attack made with this unit's Stormsmite Great Maces, that hit roll inflicts D3 hits instead of 1 if the target is a demon or a Night Haunt unit. Now, the other thing that we're going to see in here is that this is really awesome being able to see now that we've got these kind of demon hunters, soul smasher guys, and it's a nice theme that carries its way through. And with the Night Haunt elements in the box that come with it, it's just kind of a cool counterplay between Dead and these guys that specifically go after these soul guys, so the demons or the Night Haunt guys. So pretty cool. So let's switch off of that, and let's take a look at the dudes themselves. So we've got basically, now it was a little confusing at first. I know it shouldn't have been, but maybe the coffee hadn't kicked in yet. But it was a little confusing at first trying to figure out how to set these guys up. I was thinking they would come in 2 groups of 5 like the Liberators did, but they didn't. They can actually go in groups of 4, which is pretty sweet. So now in the kit here, you're going to get some duplication. So the way that I've taken that duplication on is I've gone and I've rotated the heads. So you'll see this guy here, I'll just bring him up at the front. You'll see that this guy here and this guy are the same model. And what I did is I just took the heads and I rotated. The one was the standard, so he's striking out, and the other guy's got kind of a left shift to him as well. And I'll typically do that in all of these kits. And what ends up happening is as you face their faces forward, you get just a little bit of a different kind of look to them, and you just keep the faces forward and all as well. So I just did a slight rotation. I just cut off that pin at the bottom of the helmet there, and for the neck area, I guess, and then I just reset that with glue. So pretty sweet. So let's take a look at the models themselves. We've got the two primes here. We've got the one prime kind of carrying that Rosarius, which is just kind of a neat kind of religious piece of office. In the other box set, the Stormcast didn't have a whole lot of detail to them. They had the detailed plates, but still, just these kind of religious pieces of office, it's nice to see. And then, of course, in this one here, you'll see that the prime also, he's got a few little bits of not too much in the way of extra detail, but just a few embellishments down the side here. But I am really liking in general posing. I like the variety of kind of shapes and posturing that happens in here, and I also like that the guys that call the most attention, being your two big guys here with that head rotation, they look like totally different postures, which is pretty sweet. So, okay, so let's take a good look now at the primes. You'll see that they've got extra embellishments on the knee, which is nice, and all these guys have them. But man, do I love these robes. It's a nice way to break up if you're doing the classic gold. It breaks that up a little bit, which is nice. I'm thinking for these guys, because they're going to be going after the undead all the time, I was thinking of making them kind of ghostly as well. It'd be an interesting play to be these ghosts, because they keep coming back fighting ghosts. So I kind of want to, with my painting, really lean on that a little heavier. Again, I mentioned the Rosarius, the daggers that are in here, and of course the scripts falling off the sides. On their crest, they've got the cup up there, the chalice, which is nice. And then they've got these big, massive great maces, which are, I don't know, I think they're, well, first off, they'd be pretty mean. I wouldn't want to get hit with one of those anyway, let alone being, thrown around by these kind of lightning amplified guys, and then having them like hammer lightning out at you as you go as well. So I can just picture lightning kind of arcing in on these guys and then pounding out onto their foes. So really, really solid, liking the look and feel of these guys a lot. Moving these guys off to the side, even the basic troops, we can now see that we've got loads of extra detail. Lots of scripts coming off the sides. We've got, even the helmets are a little bit more unique than what we've had before, which is pretty cool. Now, assembling these guys was good, but actually I was having a little bit of a hard time with the push to fit, and we'll actually see that when we come to the Knight-Incantor. There's only one space out of all of these that I ended up having to fill. But a friend of mine kind of suggested that I knock the pins off. So I just cut the pins when I was push-fitting these guys together, and the models went together way better than otherwise. So here they are. Nice, decent models. They've got lots of posturing and all that. Love the robes and all that. It's pretty cool. And you'll see that there's no quilting on here. These are just nice kind of flowing robes. And then we've got the standard Sigmar shields with that little bit of embellishment up at the top here to kind of have them stand out in their own space, which is really, really nice. So no, I'm really digging it. I think they did a great job. I don't think these guys actually replace the other Stormcast necessarily, but I do think that they are different and unique on their own, which is great. So cool. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I'll pull these guys off here. Next up, grab these guys off to the side. Next up, let's take a look at our artillery pieces. Not artillery pieces, but our, these kind of crazy explosive crossbow guys. And these are, as I get this all organized, are Castigators here. And it's there's a lot of range stuff going on with the Stormcast guys for sure, but these guys are a little bit more kind of aggressive in the terms that they shoot out these kind of explosive bits of Sigmarite, and they can do a little bit more. They just go out there. They in theory they do a little bit more extra damage. Now you can see here with the Castigators, the description is they're often employed against ethereal enemies that can kill with but a touch. These shock troops fire over the heads of their brothers in arms, their deadly projectiles detonating amongst the foe in blasts of cerulean force. So what's neat about this is these guys, again, from the fluff perspective, are kind of tasked with, taking down, those demons and the Night Haunt guys. As we can see, it's actually reflected in the rules and not just a fluff, which is pretty sweet. There's any number of models with these guys as well. So if you get a starter box or two, you can load them all up. The Castigator Prime, the leader of this unit, the to-hit characteristic of a Castigator Prime's Thunderhead crossbow is 2+ instead of 3+, so he just shoots a little bit better. He doesn't get a big pile of 50 attacks going out the door. They can do the etheric channeling as well. At the start of the shooting phase, you must say this unit will increase the accuracy or the power of their Thunderhead greatbows. So very much like the other guys, the Sequitors, they can actually throttle up their bonus to one of the two different elements. If you choose accuracy, reroll hit rolls of 1. Nice. If you choose power, the unit's Thunderhead greatbows have a Rend characteristic of -2 instead of -1 in the shooting game. Okay. The bursts of celestial energy in shooting phase. Each time you make a hit roll of 6+ for an attack made with this, that inflicts D3 hits instead of 1. If the target is a demon or a Night Haunt. So again, very effective against the Night Haunt and demons. But again, it's not overpowering. It's a small benefit, but you're not going to just automatically get rolled if you're dealing with you got to get those 6+ to make it work. So not too bad, not too bad. Again, very similar to the Sequitors, only it's more of a let's just say it's more of just the ranged version of those guys. Okay, moving on to the models. I'll pull these guys in now. We don't get 2 units of these guys, but again, the repetition is a thing for sure. You've got the leader. Here, the Prime, and you can see that he's got his bolt, he's got his bow out here, his crossbow, and then we've got the other guys in here. Now you'll see that, again, there's a little bit of repetition going on in here, but again, with a simple head swap, it doesn't take too much work. So if I swap the guys around and I kind of rotate stuff for their heads, even with a simple head swap, it doesn't take much to make them all kind of stand out as a little bit different from each other. And again, it's just a posturing thing more than anything else. So really good, really digging it, and yeah, it looks awesome. Now the guys themselves, they got kind of a neat aesthetic. Instead of shooting just straight up bolts, they got these little explosive-y, kind of charged up gem-like bolts in here, which would be kind of cool to paint, I think. You'll see, again, we've got just kind of the robes in here. The Prime has got that Rosarius, just, kind of leaning off the front of the robe, which will be nice to paint ultimately. I like the different posturing in the back, and I like the little shrine that he's carrying around in the back. And all these guys will have that embellishment as we turn them around, which is pretty neat. The other thing that's kind of cool is they've got these scripts coming off the back, but not everybody has them. So they're not a kind of a wash, rinse and repeat, even though they're a wash, rinse and repeat of each other in terms of the actual models themselves. So, again, very similar design aesthetic. We've got, we've got kind of the lion layout there for the shoulder pad. We've got the hammers here on the sides of Sigmar. So they fit right in with your other Stormcast, but again, very, very, very unique. One of the subtle things that I wanted to mention as well is on the crossbows themselves, they've got a really kind of cool detail here where they've got, there's different layers popping out. They've got the pieces at the end. They've got the little talismans kind of coming off the side, but they've got all this engraving. It's almost like an elvish kind of engraving for these really super fancy crossbows. And it's just, again, nice to see that they're bringing in some more of these, these details as we see kind of the evolution of the Stormcast, which is pretty solid. All right, so that is the Castigators. Again, fairly vanilla variety in terms of kind of archers, or adding some long-range fire support. It's really nice to see them in the kit. I'm actually pretty impressed with that in general, because otherwise, they kind of want you to buy the ranged guys. It's one of the techniques I've seen them do is they said, okay, well, you don't get a lot of big stuff. You got to buy the extras, but the starter box gets you your baseline of troops. But I'm really liking the way that these guys are included, and I like the posturing, I like the layout, and I really like the gems. It's just something cool and different, and of course the robes again, pretty awesome. All right, so that's the Castigators. I'll get these guys out of the way. Now, as we move up to kind of our more elite infantry, we've got our Evocators here as well. So the Evocators here, they've got, obviously we're moving into more of kind of an elite type unit where we don't have billions and billions and billions of them, we have like the standard line troops. Not that you could afford it with the points cost for Stormcast anyways, but I'm really liking the fact that you also get this kind of pseudo-elite unit with, these different abilities and different weapons in here as well. So taking a look at these guys have their Tempest Blades and their Storm Staves. I like how they have, it's the bloody blood missile blood thing, or the wolfy wolf thing from the Space Marines. Of course, we have everything that could possibly be lightning or storm themed. We have in here, but it wouldn't be G-Dub without that, anyways. The Evocators fight with sword and staff. Their weapons linked together with chains of summoned power. The combination of heaven's blessed weapons and crackling storm energy makes the Evocator deadly indeed. Really sweet to see here. We can see that the Tempest Blade and Storm Staves, they kind of link them together fluff-wise, and I'm really thinking it's pretty cool. Now, the big kicker in this one right here is the number of attacks. Look at that. It's got 4 attacks. It's a 3/3, and it's got the -1 rend and the 1 damage. So these guys would be tasked with taking down kind of some of the heavier opponents, or the more heavily armed foes, which is pretty cool. Still only doing 1 damage, but just the sheer number of attacks, this would be great against many kind of lightly armored foes, which would be pretty sweet here. Again, they can have any number of models. Each Evocator is armed with a Tempest Blade and Storm Stave. So again, fairly standard fare there. The Prime, he gets 1 to his attack characteristic, so he's pumping out 5 attacks. And it's neat to see that they've actually, when they take the primes for these different units, they're saying, well, their big strength is attacks, so we'll give them 1 more of those. If it's a shooting one, then they kind of apply to the accuracy of the shooting, which is pretty cool. Celestial Lightning Arc. In the shooting phase, reroll save rolls of 1 for this unit. In addition, after resolving this unit's attacks in the combat phase, pick 1 enemy unit within 3 inches of this unit and roll 2 dice for each model in this unit. For each roll of a 4+, the enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. Oh man, that's awesome. So they've got these weapons kind of arcing back and forth, and it just creates this kind of projection of a bubble. And 3 inches, I mean, you're in combat range there anyways, but that's actually pretty sweet. So they're actually putting out mortal wounds, kind of repulsing and pushing them away as you go. That's kind of neat, having the kind of the lightning arcs coming back and forth. I think that'd be a kind of a cool visual mechanic anyway. In the magic phase, the unit is a wizard, as we can see right there. While it has 2 or more models, so it's kind of the Brotherhood of Psychers thing that we've seen in kind of the Grey Knights and some of the 40k stuff kind of coming in here, where they work together. It can attempt to cast 1 spell in your hero phase and attempt to unbind 1 spell in the enemy hero phase. It knows the Empower spell. It cannot attempt to cast any spells other than Empower, but any number of units of Evocators can attempt to cast Empower at the same hero phase. So you're not going to get free magic missiles out the door, and I think that's pretty good. Empower. Empower has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick 1 friendly Redeemer or Sacrosanct unit within 8 inches of the caster. Until your next hero phase, you can reroll failed wound rolls for that unit. So they get them all kind of whipped up. So a little bit of a kind of a chaplain-y vibe to them. It's a little bit of kind of the orc mega fields and stuff. So I see some of the things they've really worked hard in 40k, and then now they're kind of coming across. So they've got fields to push guys out and do damage to them. They can empower other people, which is kind of a neat thing to have in there as well. And they're just a straight up kick butt kind of attacks based unit as well. Really neat. Now, the stature for these guys is a little bit on the different side. So, for example, if I'm looking at my, the kind of the prime and the two other guys, one, I really like that there's no repetition here. That's pretty darn sweet, which is cool. The other thing that I'm really liking as well is that they are kind of bigger in stature. They're the same size, I guess, but what I am really digging here is just the fact that they can really push out like lots and lots of little guys. So they got their arms kind of wide open, and they're kind of screaming and yelling, getting the other guys riled up, which is pretty cool. And they can cast spells, which can it's not an automatic buff, but it does go in there and it gives you the chance to kind of dispel it, which is pretty sweet. Hey, Mr. Mind Dreams, what's up? Mini Dreams, sorry, brother. How's it going? Yeah, just doing a quick review here of the Stormcast stuff, and it's yeah, I'm liking the models so far. I think they're pretty sweet. Little bit of effort to put together, but yeah, really digging them. I think they're nice. Anyway, so we can see here with these guys, we can see that their arms are wide open. They're striding through, I don't know, billions of grots or a bunch of demons or something like that, and they just got that kind of that presence on the field. Now, one of the things, taking a look here, that I'm really interested in is the fact that they've actually dressed these guys up differently. Now, in the other Stormcast stuff, it's been more of the same, just different weapons was kind of how they specialized. But these guys not only have different weapons, they have kind of these big aggressive plumes, and if you paint them a bright color, they'll stand out on the field. And they've got these little bits of kind of crown looks to them. So it's not just lightning iconography, but this kind of crown iconography all over the chest. You'll see here that he's not really put into the base. I want to do the bases a little bit differently here, so they're just kind of pinned in for now. But and I'm also really liking the fact that they're tied it in with the Night Haunt stuff. Just being able to kind of go in here and really dress them up as gross and ugly and awesome. So yeah, I mean, they are elite units. They are going to throw out lots of attacks. But again, they look like, whoops. No match for the paintbrush, though. But I think that's what happens when you talk with your hands all the time. But what I do think is really cool is the fact that these guys, they'll just have lots of presence on the field. And it gives you an option. I mean, the way Stormcast are traditionally overrun is just by units of, like, big horde units of zombies, skeletons. I mean, that's how I've kind of solved it in the past anyway. You went to your local GW, and they already have the Soul Wars items built up and painted. They look great. Yeah, you know what? They look really solid, and I think with mine, I'm going to do a little bit of a different take on how they look. I was mentioning a little bit earlier on the stream that I think what I'm going to do is just kind of make them a little more soulless than that kind of bright gold and yellow and all of that. So fighting the dead for so long, they start adopting their ways, kind of thing. It should be pretty solid. Anyway, that's the Evocators. That's they're pretty darn sweet, and I'm really kind of digging these guys just as a kind of a centerpiece to that horde going up the middle. What's interesting to notice so far, I've seen that these guys, they all are capable of operating fairly independently out there. So because I want to play kind of an allied game, I'm really thinking it'd be neat to have units of these guys kind of up there causing a bit of trouble, and then having all the plebs in behind trying to keep up anyway. So my goal here is not to have a massive Stormcast army per se, but I think it would be really sweet to see take these guys and add them into the old Empire stuff and all that. So really cool. Mini Dreams, I want the Night Haunts. I'm not a player. I just enjoy painting them and building custom dioramic bases. What's funny is the game is so easy to pick up. I mean, even if you wanted to play for craps and giggles, it's such a simple and easy game to pick up. But yeah, I mean, it's primarily a painting channel. I get it, but oh man, I'm looking forward to kind of seeing what we can do with some of the narrative games. I'm drawn to the death card of 40k and the Nurgle items from AOS. Yeah, the Death Guard is pretty sweet. I've got an event coming up. It's not a tournament or whatever, but they're doing at our local game store at Imaginary Wars. They're doing a well, it's basically like a return to Cadia. So after the fall of Cadia, it's they're going to be hammering in. So I'm probably going to bring my Nurgle demons, which I've already got painted up, which you guys probably haven't seen for the channel, but they're looking pretty solid. I might do like an army review of what I put together for them anyway. But then I'll add in some Death Guard and all that. But it's up to 2,000 points. And Skaven's cool too. Yeah, I'm loving the fact that all these micro armies now, where we can connect things together. We can have, you know, Skaven and Nurgle demons, or Nurgle immortals and, you know, and Skaven, or Beastmen and Chaos, or whatever. It looks like it's really coming together. So yeah, pretty pleased in general. All right, next up we've got our Celestar Ballista, and artillery coming in the box is really damn cool. I think that's something that is totally overlooked, and you only kind of get that with the starter set. And even with the starter set, you'll get one of kind of their big models and a few basic troops. So seeing the Ballista in here is really cool. And reading the fluff for it was really neat. Basically, these guys fire off these bolts of Sigmarite that are charged with energy, and when it touches down, it's just bzzz, and this chain lightning going and grabbing everything. So it's going to be pretty cool to see this thing on the field. The Celestar, I want to say Battlestar Galactica every time I look at this now. The Celestar Ballista, as I set off all the copyright notices, it fires bolts of blessed Sigmarite, each imbued with a thunderbolt. On impact, these projectiles explode with devastating effect, sending chains of lightning leaping out to strike those nearby. Like, just seeing these things fire off into like this smoky night and just, you know, zapping enemies and stuff would be pretty rad indeed, I believe. Now we can see here immediately we've got two different options. We've got a single shot, range of 36 inches, 1 attack, 3/3, -2 rend, 1 damage. So obviously, I guess it can go farther, but it doesn't zap as much because, you know, it's discharging as it's going over the field. Maybe the Celestar Storm Bolts rapid fire. It's got an 18-inch range, but it's got 4 attacks, so they can, you know, boom, 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 shoot these things out the door. 5+ hits, so less likely, but again. Anybody who's ever played XCOM back in the day, where you want to do as many shots as you possibly can, you don't have to worry about ammo, so it's fine. So that 5+ the 4 attacks is going to net you a whole bunch, but it's a little panicky because you're kind of close by, I guess, so it's harder to hit. And then the 2 wound is 3s, -2, and 1 damage. So literally, you could go out there and just pile out like 4 high rend damages for highly armored targets. And again, it's not like a big explodey type thing. It's just going out there doing high rend damage to these high armored targets. So again, that combination of kind of, you know, like, you know, chump change, kind of going out there dealing with the masses, and then these guys coming in and dealing with the heavy targets would be pretty cool. Mini Dream says, as long as we keep it to chaos, right? We can't choose. We can't cross chaos with destruction. No, man, I don't think you're supposed to do that. It's like I think it'll end up being like a Mentos in like a Diet Coke. It would just explode and they'd be fighting each other. It'd be although for a thematic game that'd be pretty neat, having the chaos and destruction against the good guys and then turning on each other like turn 3 or 4. Got me thinking now, man. Got me thinking now. It consists of Ballista and crew of 2 engineers. Fires storm bolts at the enemy, while the engineers defend it in close combat with the Sigmarite blades. Okay, the Ballista and its crew are treated as a single model. Using the characteristics given above, the crew must remain within 1 inch of the Ballista. Okay, as far as the abilities go, it's got the Bastions of Death ability. In the shooting phase, if this unit is in cover, add 2 to the save rolls for being in cover instead of 1. Oh, so they're very camouflaged in their bright gold device there. Pretty crazy. Chained Lightning. Each time you roll a hit for the attack made with this unit, Stormbolts, that attack inflicts D6 hits on a target instead of 1. An attack made with this unit's Stormbolts. So they're both Stormbolts. That's crazy. Each time you roll a hit for the attack made with its unit's Stormbolts, that attack inflicts D6 hits on the target instead of 1. Wow. Each time you roll a hit. So does that mean with 4 attacks, I'm pushing out D6 hits? Dude, that'd be crazy. I gotta be reading that wrong. And it's in cover. Chain lightning. Each projectile is a blast. Each time you roll a hit for the attack made with this storm bolts, that attack inflicts D6 hits on the target instead of 1. Crazy. So I'm rolling 4 D6 hits. So I roll 4 times and then I do D6. Dude, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's nuts. This thing's going to cost 1 billion points anyways. And it's in cover, so it's tough to just snipe out. Dude, that's crazy. All right. Versatile weapons. Before attacking the Celestar stone bolts, choose either a single shot or rapid fire. So you pick one mode and you go with it. That's crazy. I don't know if I'm reading that wrong or whatever. All right. Let's take a look now at the models themselves. Crazy. I'm still a little in shock over this thing here. So I'll set these boys up. And then we'll switch it over. Flip our friend around here. And artillery. And it's cool looking artillery. It's very kind of elvish in look and feel, which is great. It's in the main box, which is cool. We got Buddy loading stuff up, or he's pointing with his magazine of stuff, which is pretty cool. And I really like the kind of the sextant guys. He's kind of measuring stuff up in range and old school. I mean, they could just use magic and stuff to hone it in, but no, really, really sweet, really cool. So let's look at the gun itself. Now, again, just like the crossbows, is very consistent with that, the kind of look and feel and all that. You got the winder here, you got the levers here, you've got the shots coming off on there as well, but you still got all this beautiful kind of iconography and embellishment here, just kind of showing off. Just kind of showing off what's going on. Even at the bottom, kind of the bolt, the nut that kind of goes over the bolt, the finial, I guess, or whatever. It's got lots of decoration as well. You can see that it's got the clawed feet here. And really cool. And again, don't forget, this is all like push fit, easy to assemble and all that. Really nice to see that we've got lots of visual kind of variety in here. It could be so bland. And in a lot of the other kits as well, they'll cheap out where they don't get underneath or something like that. So the ballista itself, pretty darn cool. It's got the 4 barrels in there, so it represents the 4 shots. Yeah, really nice, really cool. We'll look at the 2 engineers that are here as well. Again, we can see that he's got the sextant, and it's got so much detail. It's got the markings all along the bottom. It's got the little Sigmar kind of twin-tailed comet in there. He's got the sighting line and all that. Really cool. And he's got that kind of distanced posture as he's measuring up his target in the distance to fire that single shot of doom. I also like the fact that they've got this quilting in here, which is again a little bit different than the robes that we've seen up till now. But just that kind of engineering style quilting you can see all the way through here. We've got these nice big buckles on this belt that comes across. Just loads of variety. Even the helms look a little bit different. All these other helms have been pretty nice, but they've just been kind of, toned down versions. But he's got like this, the crest of the engineer up here and all that. Yeah, really sweet. And even the robe itself has got that little bit of embellishment kind of worked into the model with that 3D. So really, really digging that as a whole. Yeah, really nice, really cool. Our other engineer, same setup, but he's got, he's got his pocket watch there, his clock, he's got his lantern or his bell or whichever, and it's just really, really nice to be able to see this all come together. The cool buckles and that quilting again. And of course, you've got the Sigmarite blades, which should be back here. They do have the ability to defend themselves, but I just love just the extra kind of arcane tools that come along with these guys here. And the helmetless guy, kind of nice to see. They actually do have humans in there of some form or another. So yeah, really nice models, lots of detail, loads of stuff to paint. But again, sticking with that trend where they're not really over detailed. So super pleased, super pleased. So this is going to be one of the key points that I'm going to really enjoy having on the field itself, especially if you don't have a lot of kind of artillery in your assistant stuff. There's the iron-wheeled arsenals for the order guys and all that, but yeah, this is a nice touch, and they're hard and they're camouflage. So if you're just kind of new to the game, Stormcast are a great way to go. They're very tough to kill, but I also like the fact that you've got something that can actually project power as opposed to either super snipe dudes or just marching up the table. So really, really nice. Mini Dreams having our Nurgles running behind some greenskins. Yeah, that would be That'd be pretty awesome. Although I think the Nurgles kind of block a lot of the shooting, so maybe I put the Nurglies up first. I put the Nurglies up first and then the Greenskins in behind. And that would be terrifying. That would be no damn good for sure. All right, working our way up the characters here, we've got the Knight-Incantor. And this guy is... he's okay. He's very reminiscent of the 2D sculpts of the old metal models. I think there was enough fantasy models of this, you know, with that 2D pose with the arms outstretched. And I get if you're calling the Storm or whatever, that's pretty cool. But they could have done something a little bit different with the guy for sure. Now he does have the kind of the plume off the helm, which gives him, you know, a little bit more of you know, 3D thing. He's got the, you know, he's got the script coming off the staff. But still, I think they could have done a little better with this model for sure. Anyway, looking at the rules real quick before we take a good hard look at the model. Our Knight-Incantor here. The Knight-Incantor is a gifted Stormcaller, able to summon. He's like the I call him Nigel the Stormcaller all the time. I know that's not his name, but I call him Nigel. I think it's hilarious. But the old Nigel Stormcaller model had that. His name's Nigel, but he had the kind of the arms outstretched thing as well. He's a gifted Stormcaller, able to summon hurricane winds and gales of mystical energy. Those who ignite a Knight-Incantor's wrath soon find themselves battling against a living tempest. So these guys are, you know, trying to come in and change the dynamics of the field itself. And so it's kind of a neat way to take on that priest role or that wizard role. But again, still the posing could be better. Anyway, bitching aside. Single model, he's got a staff range 2-inch range. Oh, that's not bad. He's going to reach a little bit with it. He's got 3 attacks, so he's no slouch. 3s and 3s, -1 rend, and D3 damage. So this guy comes down, he's whacking you with the lightning staff, so it's pretty good. Once per battle when this model attempts to unbind a spell, instead of making an unbinding roll, you can say that this model is using its Void Storm scroll. If you do this, the spell is automatically unbound. Do not roll the dice. Oh, an auto unbind. Once per battle. So that's actually not too bad. It gives you the, holy crap, I've got to stop that one crazy combination coming over the border. The Spirit Flasks. Once per battle at the start of the combat phase, you can see this model will shatter 1, 2, or 3 Spirit Flasks. If you do, each unit within 3 inches of this model suffers a mortal wound for each Spirit Flask that was shattered. Doesn't say enemy. Units within... for each Spirit Flask that was shattered. Instead, allocate the mortal wounds to this model last of all, after allocating them to any other units that are affected. So if it's one-on-one, that's going to be great. So he's got defensive, he's got like flechette grenades attached to his waist. Kind of cool, actually. He's got a wizard ability as well. They can attempt to cast 1 spell in your hero phase and attempt to unbind 1 spell, so standard wizard stuff. They know the Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, and Spirit Storm spells. And the Spirit Storm spell, conveniently here, has a casting value of 7. If successfully cast, each enemy unit within 18 inches of the caster suffers a mortal wound. Wow, that's actually a big AoE thing. It's 1 mortal wound per unit, so if he gets swarmed by little dudes, he's screwed. But he's got these guys here as well, so kind of a balance, I guess. In addition, until your next hero phase, subtract 1 from the run and charge rolls of enemy units while they're within 18 inches of the caster. So this guy can be used as a bit of a forward defensive line, kind of slowing people down. He's going to have to cast that spell over and over again, which might be a little bit tricky for your wizard, especially if you've only got a certain amount of hero slots. But I do like the point defense flasks. That's kind of cool. And then the automatic unbind is pretty neat as well. So I don't know if he'd be a crazy force to reckon with in here, but as a staple to the army, I'm thinking that's pretty darn cool. Now let's take a look at the model, and this is the only model that I think I had a complaint about, in the sense that I think we can get around it. I don't think it's that massive of a deal. Of course, you're looking at it on a very small camera here, but my challenge is this. If you take a look at the shoulder pads, you'll see that there is a huge gap in here, and there's that, well, not huge, it's fillable and it's level and stuff, so we'll have no problems. Might even be a green stuff tutorial in the works, but you'll see here that around the hammer as well, it's got a little bit of a gap. Now that can be pretty disappointing, I gotta say, in the sense that, you know, but again, you don't know till you know. I started assembling him, and I think it was either the piece from the neck, or it was the posts themselves were maybe a bit too long, or maybe waited too long to glue it or something. But everything else managed to go together fairly well, especially after I started pulling off those internal posts. but I might have to fill this one here. So the only problem I had was just kind of the assembly was on that guy right there. But again, not too bad. You can see that he's got his mace here as well as maul, and that 2D pose that I'm not a fantastic fan of. We'll just live with it. One model out of all of them. It's my only complaint, I guess. I like that they're actually calling out the storm and chanting away, and his plume on the back here is just whipping away in the breeze, and his scroll is whipping in a different direction. I'm going to say that he's generating the power, and it's kind of pushing off of him. And so if there's something over here, it'd be flowing this way, right? Because his robes are. We're not going to talk about that. Anyway, it's looking really good so far. I really like the model. The churgs that are down here are kind of cool. He gives you a little bit of visual interest. The big abs on the armor is cool. And I also like the fact that the robe also continues off the arms and kind of flows back in the wind and all of that. So all in all, a pretty cool model. He's got his flask there, more as a reminder to me so I don't drop the ball with that. He's got his little fetish at the back, his kind of talisman there, which is pretty cool. And in general, a fairly decent model. Not really standing out as much as some of the other models. Again, I think it's just maybe that 2D pose. But once he's painted up, I'm sure I'll stop kind of griping about him anyway. But a nice model nonetheless. Remember, take those posts off, and I bet you won't have that same problem that I had. But I'm going to do a green stuff tutorial maybe just to see how that works out. So, digging it a lot. Okay. We're grinding through this at a fairly good pace here. The next piece that we're going to look at is kind of the last piece, and this is our monster Lord-Arcanum. Lord-Arcanum. Now, this was one of the key models that had me really interested in the set of the Stormcast. And obviously, he's up on the big griff, and he's kind of sitting out there, holding his banner aloft and cheering the guys forward to take on the undead. Pretty darn sweet model, all things being equal. Now, the card itself is, they got a nice artwork on the back. But again, one of the things that we did with the unboxing that I thought was really cool was the fact that there were so many rules that instead of just kind of, hitting reduce and reducing it down to like 15-20%, it was nice to be able to see that they just came out with a nicer card and they put a little bit more thought into it. It moves crazy fast, which is nice. Really good save, loads of wounds, decent. Masters of Etheric Lightning who can manipulate the cerulean energy of the Azir. Lord-Arcanums can see the souls of living creatures, the better to heal their kindred. When allied with wind-swift griff chargers, they are all but inescapable. So he's got his Aether Stave in there, which is his standard 2-inch weapons for attacks. So he's got loads of attacks, but as a leader, that's not a big surprise. 3s and 3s, -1, and D3 damage. So not bad. So obviously he's sticking with the Stormcast 3s and 3s, Space Marines all the way. The Griff Chargers, Razor Beak and Claws, 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, -2 rend, and 1 damage. So you're kind of hitting into the high, heavy armored elements, or you're really putting the beats down on a bunch of little guys. So gives you a little bit of flexibility, but he's not going to kind of push any one thing. So from a narrative perspective, I really like the way that is laid out, to be honest. So he's got the Ethereal Strike. Each time you make a hit roll of 6+ for the Griff Charger's Razor Beak and Claws, that attack inflicts 1 mortal wound instead of a normal damage. So he's got 3 attacks, so there's some serious potential. You're going to get every couple of rounds, you're going to get at least 1 mortal wound in there, which is just a nice kind of add-on in there as well. Cycle of the Storm. Once per turn, when a friendly Stormcast Eternal model is slain within 18 inches of this model, instead of removing the slain model, you can heal 1 wound that has been allocated to it. A Lord-Arcanum on Griff Charger cannot use this ability on itself. Instead of removing the slain model, you can heal 1 wound that has been allocated to it. So not only does someone have to cut through the damage and the wounds and all that other stuff, but instead of removing it, you just make sure it's got 1 wound back on it. That's kind of interesting. It's kind of like a medic, but in a different kind of sense. You've got to overcome all this stuff first, and then he comes back right away. There's no having to stick around, so he can bolt off the next turn. So that's kind of an interesting. Ride the Winds Etheric. In your movement phase, this model can ride the wind's etheric instead of moving normally. If it does so, choose the direction in which it will move and roll 6d6. This model can move up to a number of inches equal to the results in the direction it chooses. So up to 36 inches? Wow, a minimum of 6. Moving over terrain and other models is as if it could fly. It must end the move more than 3 inches from enemy models. If this is impossible, it cannot move at all. This model cannot charge in the turn which would rides the wind's etheric. So it's a big teleport shunt is basically what it is, being able to get onto another side of the field. There's a lot of times I think that I've seen Stormcast players having a real hard time getting up the field or shifting. And I've used that to my advantage when I'm fighting against them. But the ability to kind of take a leader and go and support an advance that's maybe faltering or a battle that's maybe faltering, or even just put pressure on another side of the table. Heck, even grabbing objectives. That's pretty darn cool, actually. And it's... Oh, it's not a once per game thing. This is whenever it wants. So it can just do its big shunt and move around the field. That's actually pretty powerful as a thing. Once per power, so the Spirit Flask, Shatter. So it's got the shattering. So it's got the defense grenades, the defense flasks there as well, which is cool. So again, if you get swarmed by a horde, you can blast them. I honestly picture like going down like a big ninja, right? So it throws the flask down, poof, big smoke, everyone dies, and then he's gone on the etheric winds. Yeah, that's totally how I picture things happening. Anyway, Griff Charger, Lord-Arcanum is a wizard. They can do one spell in your hero phase and attempt to unbind one spell, so it's one spell each. You're not crazy. Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, and Healing Light. In addition to Arcane Bolts, they are unleashed, are fueled with Prime Electrodes. Oh, so they can put out different Arcane Bolts. That's kind of cool. The Healing Light has a casting value of 5, nice and easy. If successfully cast, pick a friendly Stormcast model within a Stormcast Eternal model within 18 inches of the caster. Heal D3 wounds that have been allocated to that model. If the casting roll was an 8, heal D6 wounds that have been allocated to that model. So you're not going to be fluffing up big piles of little guys and bringing them back. You're going to be healing the big monsters as you go, which is kind of an interesting one. All right, so with the Arcane Bolt amplification, and it's not unbound, and the spell inflicts D3 mortal wounds instead of 1, or D6 mortal wounds instead of D3 if the casting roll was a 10+. Nice, really good. So it's just an amped up blasty shot, because you know, God knows we need more Arcane Bolts, you know, kind of coming into the mix all the time for sure. Now we can get into the command abilities as well. So just as a model itself, nice Spirit Flask to, you know, take off, stave off the hordes, fly anywhere you want, cool. And in the magic, you get an extra zappy zap, or you can heal models around you. So massive support unit for this guy for sure. Soul Energy. You can use this command ability in your hero phase. Hero phase, if you use command ability in your hero phase, pick a friendly unit of Evocators within 6 inches of this model. The unit can automatically cast Empower in that hero phase. No casting roll is required, and the spell cannot be unbound. So you can force them. Cool. Shooting phase. If you use this command ability in your shooting phase, oh, I like the variety. This is cool. Pick a friendly unit of Castigators within 6 inches. You can use Etheric Channeling to increase the accuracy and power, nice, of that unit's Thunderhead Great Bows. So he can urge them on by, you know, telling them where to shoot and when, and load that bolt faster and shoot that guy harder. Absolutely. And then in the combat phase, I imagine it's about hitting. Pick a friendly unit of Sequitors within 6 inches of the model. You can use Etheric Channeling to increase the power of the unit's weapons and shields in the combat phase. So it's kind of a neat model to see out on the table, in the sense that it really helps its fellow guys from the box. So these kind of undead spirit hunter guys, it really does go through and help them out, which is pretty sweet in general. I think that's a pretty nice touch. And as a matter of fact, it's nice because when you're talking about mini armies, if you don't want to do the massive Stormcast thing, you get a pretty balanced force in the box. So I'm sure I'll mention that again later. Awesome. Awesome. Great rules, and just a nice kind of supporty unit. Not overwhelming in any one area, but just really nice to see what's available there for sure. And now we have our guy. Oh, I might have to switch over to the other camera. He's that big. He's pretty cool. So this is our Lord, right? So this is our Lord-Arcanum, and I'm just going to switch hands here. So this is our Lord-Arcanum, and the model's really cool. Now, my heraldry goes back, and it's the lion's, kind of that lion pose, and I love the echoing of that older kind of heraldic pose. And this is where it would come from, is seeing somebody doing this on the field. That's pretty cool. The Griff Charger is, really nice. The feathers are really cool. And for a kind of push-fit model kit, I don't know if you can see in there, it's pretty flat at the bottom, but it's so well hidden from above, it doesn't look like it's a push-fit at all. The model went together super nicely. The instructions were nice and clear. You get a little bit of a terrain piece at the bottom, so you're not struggling to glue it in 55 different places. The tail is nice. Again, it matches all the Griff hounds and all that kind of Griff theme throughout. I like that he's got more of his little flasks down here, his point defense flask, which is cool. The model himself, he's got that, that kind of King's or Starbright or Starburst kind of iconography on the chest there and on the abs. Really cool. Even on the knee plate, there's a little bit of extra iconography in there as well. Very nice. He's got his talisman here on the side. He's got that nice quilted armor that you see kind of throughout all the, the more elite units that are in there with the iconography on there. Very cool, and I'm really liking the staff. And again, a little static, but he's holding his staff aloft, and it's got that nice theme carried all the way through. I like the script work here is kind of wrapped around. Gives the model a little bit more strength, but it's also just really nice to see with the little danglies on here. Yeah, really nice. Actually, this is kind of the star of the show for sure. He's got his big blade in here. He's got his big plume on the back, and even his kind of the collar that comes up over top is very kind of kingly and powerful. So definitely a different look for the Stormcast. It's not just Stormcast riding big griffs and stuff. It's got a very kind of knightly, kingly feel to it with that kind of rearing up. Very cool. The chest piece to the Griffhound, it's got lots of detail and all that. And it reminds me almost of a steam tank, just that kind of feeling, that kind of boldness to that there. So yeah, really cool. The chest's all puffed out on war footing. They kind of, you can see the emotion in the face, even though it doesn't have emotion. Nice detailed beak too. This will be a blast to paint. So yeah, really digging the look and feel of this guy for sure. So from a starter set perspective, I think I'm really liking what's going on. I'll see if I can stack these guys in while I'm talking. I'm really liking the variety that you get. I think that's one of the biggest things that caught me, was just the variety that you get. You get the artillery, you get the archers or the crossbow guys, you get your kind of super stormcaller, your wizard, you get your elite units that are basically taking down hordes of dudes. You've got, let's see what else we got in here. Oh, we got our shooters. You got your massive crossbow guys shooting their bolties of madness and kind of Sigmarite explosion-y stuff. And there's so much plastic that comes with this kit. And this is just half of the starter box, right? So here I am essentially just filling up the screen with all the plastic that you get. So spectacular deal in terms of cost and value and all of that. And it's a self-contained army. And on top of that, you're not relying on other Stormcast pieces. They all kind of work with each other, which is a pretty neat thing to see, all things being equal. So big thumbs up for the Stormcast guys. I will be doing a painting tutorial on these. I'll probably also squeeze in that green stuff tutorial, liquid green stuff tutorial, to kind of see what's going on in there. And yeah, no, turning out really, really well. So I'll be applying bases on here, and then I'll be adding up, kind of adding the guys onto the bases, and we'll be doing a painting tutorial kind of on the bulk of these guys. I might pick one or two and just kind of paint everybody the same way, but the big Griff and stuff definitely will do a single on him. The artillery will do, and yeah, so it should be pretty cool. My next task here is I'm going to go off and assemble the undead dudes of doom, the ghosties, and I think those will be a lot of fun to review as well. So huge value in the set so far. I'll assemble the other ones and come out with another review probably in a week or so. And I know I don't match the the reviews of all the other guys coming out there, but wife and life and kids and all that other stuff. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you like this video, obviously jab that like button. Absolutely helps the channel out. Gets the channel out there, gets the video out there. And if you're new to the channel and you want to subscribe, I'm not going to stop you. Jab that subscribe button, and there's that little bell that shows shows up there as well. My plan is to do a lot more streaming in general, so you get notifications on all your devices when you tap that little bell there on the side. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. Hope it was a ton of value, and we'll catch you in the next video.